Hello and welcome to Not So Quick Take TA here on Landy's Crypto Corner. Today is June 3rd, 2024, and we're going to take a look at Bitcoin. We'll take a look at ETH, Solana, and Caspa to follow up with those, and we'll also take a look at some Rune coins again. Now, we've got something pretty interesting finally happening on the charts here for Bitcoin, and that is a daily compression phase. So we've seen Bitcoin hanging out in this big monthly support zone here. It did drop it slightly on a deviation, but it did not drop it on higher term timeframes, just the daily here. And that was the monthly and quarterly down here at around $58,800 to $59,000. And that's coming in from March of 2021. Excuse my voice. I'm still a little shaky on that end. But it's in general been finding base of support on the lows and in and around even the March of 2021 monthly quarterly close, and then the October of 2021 monthly close on the low side. And then it's been playing around its prior cycle all-time high and slightly above, of course, to make the all-time high appear at 73,835, but roughly between the $65,000 and $69,000 long-term support structure from the last cycle. Now, locally, it's creating a lot of different structures here that we've discussed in the actual live streams that we've been doing. But in this case, Bitcoin didn't really get like a really deep compression phase here on the daily. It got beautiful expansion to the upside, mean reversion, and then kept the volatility high. There was a slight compression here back in early April before getting some expansion down into support, and then bouncing off of it very aggressively in higher low fashion to get some slight expansion up into the overhead resistance again. But we haven't seen an actual pinch in the Bollinger Band or a compression of the Bollinger Bands this deep in quite a while. I'm going to show you in just a moment that this is actually pretty important because it's going to be playing into some of the higher term time frame compression as well. So in this case, if Bitcoin can break out above its local wick highs of this current range at around 70,600, I do want to see closures above the upper second at around $71,000 to then look for expansion up to its local high here at 72. Any closes above there, I'm targeting the highs to the all-time high again over here. So around 73 to 73,835. From there, I'm looking 75 to 78, as many of you know, 78 to 80 from there, and then mid to low 80s. Thereafter, we kind of revisit, as I do think that, of course, $90,000 even will be in the cards shortly thereafter that area is tagged. But, in order to get that expansion to the upside, we need to see closures above the upper second, roughly around $71,000. That would kick off more aggressive expansion to the upside, but it still needs to get closes above its local highs here for this particular move at around that $72,000 or so, 71,980, but 72 even is probably good enough to at least be targeting locally to 73 and the current all-time high. Now, if we do see any breakdown below the current wick lows, so the picture has changed a little bit. It does have some room locally to come down, but if it starts to close below around 66,600 and this prior swing low that we've been talking about, at around 65,850. Be aware that the lower second standard deviation is right there. If that is dropped, we are looking for a little bit of expansion down into $65,000 and maybe more over here to the $64,000 zone at the lower highs over here on a close open basis. Anywhere below there, I'm looking for expansion back into the support zone from October of 2021 at 61,350 to that March monthly and quarterly even at around $58,800 to $59,000. So anywhere below there, I'm looking for the lows and lower. That's not what I'm seeing right now, of course, but we do have to lay out those conditions for the downside move. Currently, I am looking up and to the right. Bitcoin has been just kind of consolidating, getting ready for a larger move. And we can see on the daily, we're even getting a nice momentum reset. And I was looking for a bullish reset on momentum. This is not confirmed yet, but any close above 68,200 or so, 68,220 today, or today's candle, I should say, then I would be looking for this to complete a bullish reset of momentum. And, it's not in the context of the momentum oscillator itself, but a bullish reset in terms of price structure being in an uptrend and now going sideways and really setting up for expansion as well. If we start to see expansion kickoff to the upside, especially above $71,000, and we get a nice momentum shift confirmed on the next close, well, that's painting the picture that we have more confluences than not that this is going to go test its all-time high and higher. And in this case, looks very good. We'll see where today closes. Currently playing around $69,000, so it's got about $800 worth of room. It doesn't necessarily have to complete that cross, but if it does start to close back below 68,200, then we're looking for this to at minimum consolidate, maybe come back and reevaluate if it starts to tag some of the low side here. And starts to pass below, especially around $67,000, then I would be aware of what's happening on your chart, because that is the lower first standard deviation right there at $67,000. You want to see that area hold up if price does head back down that way. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the higher term time frames. So we got the 2-day here. 2-day is still set up in a range. Now, I'm not as enamored with what's going on the 2-day here. I would like to see some compression. But I do think that some of the higher term timeframes in conjunction with the look that we're getting on the daily might tell the story depending on what happens over the next few days. So we do have the 2-day closing with today's daily candle. In this case, back above $69,000 and the upper first on a close. And I'm looking to the upper second. That's guess where? Right around $72,000. So anywhere above there, I would be looking for expansion. To the highs, again, at the all-time high at $73,835 to the upper second here, which is coming in at $75,000. So there's that $75,000 target overhead of the local, well, I should say the range highs or the all-time high, the current all-time high. Now, if Bitcoin does fail to close above the upper first and around $69,000 today, it's not a death sentence, but the upper first is going to start moving up and in around where price currently is, likely doing a band replace price. If it were to close right here on $69,000, we're likely to see the upper first swoop up over price on the close open. And that, from a volatility standpoint, all that does, it doesn't change anything. Again, all the structure that I just talked about on the daily, holding the lows is really what you want to see. And I would say eyes on if it starts to break down below $67,000. But you know, as long as it's holding the range lows that it's currently consolidating in, it's fine, but it would open up targets down to the basis. Now that's currently coming in at 65.5, but I do suspect that that's going to inch its way up into the range lows over here, somewhere around 66 to 66.5. Now, if we do start seeing anywhere below there, then we step it down again to that lower first at, you know, around 66.2 to 66.5. I'm sorry, 62 to 62.5. My apologies. 66 is up here in the strong half. 62 is down here in the weak half. But you know, anywhere below there, we're looking back into the base of support down to that lower second. And again, that's not my first take on what's happening here. But 61,350 to where the lower second is coming in just above $59,000, which is just above that March of 2021 monthly quarterly area on a closing basis. So looks fine. Now we do still rather have momentum shifted against price right now on the 2-day, but you know, we got green DMI. This is a consolidation. This is likely to bullish a reset, especially if the daily follows through with today's candle or even the day after. In this case, 69,580 looks good. Let's go ahead and look at the 3-day. 3-day is again set up in a very rangy look. And again, I don't think things are immediate. I think that Bitcoin's got some work to do on the daily, but if we start seeing that expansion to the upside, we can start eyeing some of those higher targets. And then that's going to play into some of these long-term targets that are going to be coming into play here above the 3-day time frame. But in this case, upper first, we would like to see a close above there. That is also going to be closing with the 2-day and of course today's daily candle. That is right at $69,000. So anywhere above there from a volatility standpoint, the highs are in play at 72 up to the upper second, which is coming in right at this 3-day wick high at just under $73,000. So, you know, again, above $71,000, I'm looking for the highs to get ran again, 72 and a half, 72, 72 and a half, 73 and beyond. Basically, and I would just take it lower term time frame level at a time, one lower term time frame level at a time, I should say. In this case, above 73, we're looking for expansion to the upside, looking for a price replace band somewhere around the upper third, which is coming in just above that $75,000 area that we saw in the other upper third standard deviations on the other set of bands. for the other time frames. In this case, it's coming in over $76,000. So again, 76 to 78. I'm kind of giving a range. It doesn't mean that price is going to stop and reverse there, but I'm just, identifying the areas of interest overhead. Again, if it is closing below the upper first or $69,000, you would generally, Bitcoin's playing in a range between the upper first and the basis. To the downside, the basis is there at 65,669. Nice. I would like to see this turn up a little bit. We may see that at close if Bitcoin closes here or higher. But I'd like to see it above the basis band, above the current wick lows on the 3-day here at 66,600 or so. Anywhere below there, you got the support. It can save itself at around $65,000. But from a volatility standpoint, right back to the same areas as on the 2-day, around 62 to 62,500 or so. And then the overall supports here, you see the lower second coming in right there again, right there at the March monthly and quarterly close from 2021 at 59,000 to 58.8 or so, to that 61,350 there from the October monthly close. So let's go ahead and look at the 4-day. 4-day is a range look, but this is a nice compression on the 4-day. Any closes above its current highs here at around $72,000. We're looking at expansion kicking off on the 4-day. And this is where I think the daily, 4-day, 5-day is going to be very important to keep track of. Now, the 4-day is going to be closing with this next daily. So we've got important closures. We've got the daily, of course, closes every day, but we've got the 2-day, 3-day, 4-day closing at the same time. And we'll see what the 5-day, I believe, is also closing. Let's go ahead and look. 5-day just got its close open. So we'll take a look at that in just a moment. But any close above here on the 4-day chart, obviously targeting the highs and higher. You can see the upper third is there at $75,000. But, any close above there and the 4-day starts to kick off expansion to the upside. Looks very good. Obviously, $69,000. We've seen this over and over again on every set of bands for all of these daily and higher term timeframes. Upper first is at $69,000. See it close above there? We're targeting that 72. Any closes above there, we're looking for, especially on the 4-day, we're looking for expansion to the highs and higher. And then any closes below around $66,000 on the 4-day can save itself at 65. You see the lower first is coming in there at 63. Below there, it's got the main monthly downside support area. That lower second is coming in around $60,000, which is that daily higher low at around 60,150. And you don't want to see that area lost, especially on any higher term timeframes. But that's coming right in line with that lower second. That would still be expansion down into support. That's not the first thing that I'm looking for on any of this. So upside momentum on the 4-day above $64,000. Let's go back and look at the 3-day. It's going to be 69,940. Okay. So Bitcoin's got a shit or get off the pot on some of the lower term timeframes, but it can easily flip them back bullish, just like I am looking for essentially the same thing. If Bitcoin can hang out here, trade sideways, and then head up, I'd be looking for a very similar look on as what we are seeing here on the daily. 2-day, I'd be looking for a bullish reset. 3-day, same kind of thing. If it does flip back down, that would still only be an initial cross. $64,000 looking very good. Upside momentum on longer term timeframes takes precedent over the shorter term timeframes anyway. And then of course we've got the 5-day, which is pivoted at 61,700. So, it's also a very, very, very deep compression here on the 5-day. So this is the setup. Anywhere above $71,800, $72,000 in the 5-day on a close, we're looking to the upper third, the highs and higher, basically around $73,835 to $75,000 initially. But typically, when you see bands this compressed, when price starts breaking out and towards its all-time high, you're going to see a candle through the compression side of things, and you wait for the close. That's going to kick off and confirm the expansion. So anywhere above $72,000. And especially if it starts closing above 75 on the 5-day time frame, it's confirmed expansion. So we would be looking, much higher, 75, 78, 78 to 80, mid to low 80s, and then mid to upper 80s into the $90,000 region initially, and then come back to it for that $100,000 target and start refining some of those areas. Now to the downside, if we did see the 5-day drop the basis, it can still save itself at the support at $65,000, well within the range. Realistically, from the 5-day look, you just don't want to see any closes below 61,350 in this compression phase. So anywhere below there would be expansion down, and it could save itself by the lower third. And that's right at that quarterly and monthly for March of 2021 at 59.9 to I'm sorry 58.8 to $59,000. You don't want to see any closes below 61,350 though. I'm just going to tell you right off the bat that would not look good. This is not in a position to do that right now. It is telling me that it's bullish. It's above the basis band. It is trying to grind up against its previous cycle highs. This is looking like a breakout in progress, but not. It just hasn't happened yet. And of course, we have to wait for confirmation to be sure. And 61.8 is, that would be your bias breaker as well, because it would be closing back below, the lower second, which is 61,500 right now, and right into that October monthly there at 61,350. So, that's the pivot. If it starts to break down and especially close below its lower second, it's bearish, but that's not what we are seeing. We're not getting those bearish signs at this moment. Everything is flipping bullish. And then, of course, we've got the weekly. The weekly has an initial cross back to the upside, and it's not a full signal yet. I'd be looking for that to start coming into play later this week, especially on closures above 68,550. And of course, closes above the upper first would beget, a volatility target back to the highs. Your 72, of course, back above 72. On the weekly, we're looking to the all-time high at 73,835, and then eventually the upper second there coming in at around $80,000. We see the upper third is starting to come down a bit, but that's roughly around $88,000 to $90,000. So in this case, from a volatility standpoint, Bitcoin's still playing between the upper first and the basis. So to the downside, 61,800, which just so happens to be the 5-day, pivot area, is going to be very important if we were to see Bitcoin, somehow break down through its local supports and start getting a downside move. But as it stands right now, it looks pretty good to try and trek up. Not too much else to say there other than the volatility areas of interest to the downside from there. If you are interested, which you should always know this just in case, because things don't always go the way that you expect them to go. But if the basis were to break down, and then of course this monthly zone were to break down and it takes out its low at 56,500, we have the lower first standard deviation directly in line with that area down below that I've talked about so much, between $53,000 and $50,000. I do not think that is the most likely scenario to play out. This is a beautiful higher high, swing high, to higher low, swing low, and I'm looking for continuation, quite honestly. That is what I'm looking for, but there is conditions. Bitcoin has to meet those conditions for me to start looking for things locally to start moving up further, and there is always the chance that things could break down. That's going to pretty much do it for me on Bitcoin right now. I'm going to leave you with one last thing, and that is do not fade the 12-hour. The 12-hour is always a good indicator of what we may expect on the next daily. We have a fully confirmed cross back to the upside here for the 12-hour Stochastic momentum indicator, and that's going to be on any close above 67,600. And the 12-hour is compressed all to holy hell right now. So any closes, back above the upper second, it's got to beat its local wick high to go test around that 72. So again, upper seconds right around your 69,500 area. And remember, if it starts to get closes above there, it's got to close above now around $70,000 and then take out 70,600. Of course, that would put it all above some of the areas of importance on the daily as well. So I would watch the 12-hour carefully during today's closure, coming into some of these higher term time frame closes. So we got the daily, 2-day, 3-day, 4-day, all closing at the same time. And of course, if you start seeing the lower first breakdown, and that's around 67,800, just keep an eye on those lows. It's got a lot of support around it right now. It's all the way down to 65, but realistically, you don't want to see a drop in the lows, and especially the that big swing low down there at 65,850. Otherwise, it is going to come down and test around the $64,000 to $65,000 area on expansion. So in this case, I am looking, in general, for this to head up And to the right, it's struggling on a close at $69,000. It's got to take that out, start taking out, 69.5, $70,000, work its way towards that 71. Again, 71 is going to be the daily upper second standard deviation. So 71, and then we can go look for it to tag around the 72,000, and then of course 73 on this wick, and then the all-time high up there, just about $1,000 higher, at 73,835. So $835 even. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at ETH real quick. ETH is going to be in my crypto area here. Let's go ahead and look at ETH. ETH is hanging out in exactly the same area that we talked about. It was last week, right? It was Friday, I think, that I uploaded that video. I don't even remember now. But above 3,700, looking good to test up into the right. You want to see it consolidate. That's what I had mentioned. And strong consolidation is above 3,700. It can still, dip down to 3,500, 3,520 or so. But I would say that you want to see it keeping on the strong half of the bands now. It's coming in at 3,630. So, below there, it has room. You don't want to see it closing below the 3,500 area, though, or the basis. That would indicate, at least from here, that it's going to go retest some of these lower high structures over here. But it's already testing some of its higher high structures before the big dump off and trend shift there. It had swing and closes lower, and then tried to close higher, and that's where it put in that high at around the 3,700 area. It is holding that. It's already tagged 3,500. It's a lot of waiting, a lot of sideways right now. Bitcoin's doing the same thing. So it's all setting up. This is not quite ready yet, but it could still even spike up to around the 4,000 to 4,150, 4,200 by the daily upper second. I wouldn't necessarily be looking for it to make an all-time high run directly from there, although it could. I would want to see some further compression. So, a spike up, come back down, and maybe reaccumulate at a higher level holding this area, or spike up, deviate, come right back in. On the other side of that, spike down and head into that support. Again, I would want to see it holding the basis. Otherwise, we are looking at 3,500, possibly even down to, the 33.5 area by that lower first. Now, from the daily perspective, we do have a momentum shift, but this is all in the context of consolidation on the daily. Let's look at the 12-hour. 12-hour, again, early indicator on everything for the daily, 37.71. So 37.71 is going to be the 12-hour pivot for this current 12-hour candle. Looking kind of weak right now, but it's still, again, it's a consolidation. Let's see where it is on the bands. Nice compression. Oh, yeah, this is going to tell us exactly what to expect. Closes below. Now, you got to remember, when you see a compression like this that's within range, supports matter. So if we do see closes below 37.08 here on the 12-hour, that would be a breakdown below this wick low. So if we see that, then we can start targeting some of this area in between, 3,500 and 3,600. Especially on a close, because we're looking for expansion. This is 0 over 4.44. So this is basically as compressed as you're going to get on the 12 hours. So any closes back above the range highs here, we're looking for, $39 to $4,000. And that's upper second is coming in at 3,900. So again, looking up to about $50 higher to around 4,000, and then possible expansion above 4,000 to 4150 to 42. Excuse me. My apologies. Yeah, I keep an eye on the 12-hour. This is going to be the early indicator for the daily here on ETH as well. I do not think that ETH is ready for the next leg just yet. I mean, maybe it is. Weekly looks really strong. But weekly is still only pointing to the upper second, maybe an all-time high run. I don't think it's ready for it from the daily perspective just yet. Maybe it develops throughout this week if it does choose the upside route. But even the weekly is saying, above 3,700, the upper first. the upper second is right there at around 4,200. So just keep keep a close eye on it. If it does drop the upper first, again, that basis band is coming in right where that the daily lower first is, which is right around 32 to 3,300. You don't want to see that, but even from the weekly, it wouldn't be too bad. You just wouldn't want to see it closing anywhere down there because that would be a lower high. All right, let's go ahead and check on Solana. Again, it's holding up above my zone there that I've called out quite often now. 160 is what I want to see it holding up above, and it's holding up above there. So now the picture does change a little bit here. As long as it's above 150 or so, and that's right around the basis band on the weekly. In general, I'm looking for this to remain strong. The issues here is if it were to head down there and close anywhere down there, would be a lower high, and then that endangers some of this area down here by this higher low structure. Again, not the first thing I'm looking for, but strong above, about 150 to 160, very strong above 160, but could consolidate and take its time. If it does start closing back above about 175, we're looking to the upper first by 180, and then for it to take out, 188 to 190, local weekly wick high or swing high. Let's go ahead and look at the daily. Yeah, daily's in compression right now, so it is in the weak half of the bands, but it's getting support in the actual local consolidation. The problems become if it breaks down below this support while breaking down below something like the lower first and or lower second on a closing basis. Then we're looking for it to run that weekly basis, which is coming in right there at that 150 or so. Now, it can and typically will bounce around the lower first. It just remains to be seen if we've already seen that daily bounce. If it can get back above the basis here at around 169, nice. Then I would look locally to the wick highs here at 173.80. Above there and the upper first at 175.42. I'd be looking for it to play up to its local high here. And then that, of course, is taking it one step at a time on the daily around that 180 to 183. And then, of course, up to that 188 to 190. We do need to see that area taken out, start targeting the highs back here at around, 195 to 200, and then above to 208 to 210 up here at the overhead resistance from last cycle. So, and then above there, I would take it probably $10 to $15 chunks at a time for zones. We'll see, this is starting to compress on the daily. It's a 0/5 on the volatility rating is at 0. So as soon as this starts to get any kind of close above the upper first, it's going to start showing a volatility uptick and or any kind of close below the lower first. That's going to give you a slight indication, but it's not until it breaks above the upper second that it gets aggressive or below the lower second that it gets aggressive to the upside or downside. So again, just watch about 160 to 157 to the downside, and then to the upside, you want to see about 175. That'll be your first indication that it's trying to move up and test its local highs and higher. And you want to see closes above 180 to 181 here by the upper second. Daily is, nice bullish reset. If it can pick itself up off the floor here above 160, it's looking good. Any close above 166.45. Which it's playing a little bit under right now. It's looking that like it's gonna be raring and ready to go. This looks like a good long setup, not financial advice. Of course, it needs to maintain, in my opinion, to be bullish in the near term above 160 is really what you want to see. What's a 12-hour saying? 12 hours super compressed, 166.76, playing in the bearish half, but again, above 160, it's fine. Can even close slightly below it. I don't want to see that, to be quite honest. Even locally, above 170, it's going to start its expansion. Still need to see the local highs at 173.80 taken out, though. Would look pretty good to at least go test that 175 to 180 region. We're going to go ahead and move on to Caspa. Caspa has now legged up to our next zone. So this was a beautiful move. Now, it didn't get the compression that I wanted, but, we can see, especially with altcoins, they don't typically play like Bitcoin, especially when volatility hits on some of the lower term time frames, but volatility wasn't like stupidly high. It is now. But it was a pretty structured drawdown into supports to come back and test 10 cents, crawled its way back up to the 12 to 13 cent region. As I mentioned, above 13 cents, I'm looking for this thing to play to 15. From there, I was looking and it tagged it exactly on Sunday at around that 14 to 15 cent region. And then the next area, lower term time frames, was around the 15 to 16. And then eventually, really just looking, quite honestly, right to where it's playing. And right now, where it wicked off of yesterday and is starting to move into today, around the 17 cent to 19 cent region, roughly 20 cents. And this thing's gone again. And that's all based on a lot of the higher term time frame stuff. Just like I was talking about with Bitcoin, I do think that the higher term time frames take precedent over the lower term time frames in bull markets like this and deep bear markets. But in this case, that weekly is freaking beautiful above 11 cents. This thing is going to move on. It's going to get re-expansion on the weekly. This was actually a pretty close higher low structure, tagging the same areas that it did on the lower low structure on the weekly. If this thing breaks out and starts closing above the upper second by the end of the week at around 18 cents, and then especially takes out its all-time high there at 19 cents, this thing's gone. This thing's getting shot out of a cannon. 20 cents is just above on the weekly at the upper third. I'm looking 25 to 30 cents in the near term on any kind of weekly re-expansion. It's already painting that re-expansion, 16 over 14. So this thing looks freaking amazing. And I'm glad that some of you did your own analysis in conjunction with what I was looking at. And when it met the conditions, I know that some of you actually did take that trade. Congratulations for that. You did that, not me. I do not give financial advice. I just give you zones of interest. But congratulations, because that's a freaking beautiful trade. Even locally, if you didn't get in on those lows down at 10 cents, this thing's moving fast. And has been a strong performer like all the way through. So love it. Let's go ahead and move on to some runes. Runes have been doing good. Let's go ahead and check on decentralized here. Well, that's not a very long chart. Now, is it on the weekly? That's only 3 weeks on the books there. Let's look at the daily. So we have 20th of May, and we've got the 24th. So let's go with the longer chart here. Decentralized on the daily, hanging out in that strong half, above 0.222. 0.0222, looking really good. I think people are sleeping on this one, to be honest. Let's go ahead and take a look at the runes stuff over here. Where is decentralized? In terms of market cap, it's number 8. Flip-flopping around with Lobo, the wolf pup, which has had a beautiful run lately. We'll take a look at that in just a moment. But they have those charts now. I want to see some longer-term stuff here. But, this is a nice markup. And it's a big consolidation range. One of the things that I do think that people are sleeping on this one. Now, of course, again, not financial advice. Do your own research on it. But, it's got a 21 billion supply. But its holders are, it's like third best holder ratio out there. Behind Dog and Runecoin, which is Risic. So, looks really good. It is playing, there is a little bit of an arb play, but typically by the time you pay the withdrawal fees, probably not, it's not far enough away. It's trading at 0.002563. Yeah, there's no arb play there. By the time you withdraw and pay fees, you're going to be paying about the same as you would on a marketplace like Magic Eden. So it's trading at about parity if you take fees into account, not just network fees, but withdrawal fees and network fees. But there's not too much going on. I mean, it's not a bad markup. I mean, there's not a lot to get to 4 cents now. Maybe there is. No, there's not that much. I mean, all it takes is for a couple bigger players to get in here, and this thing's going to start going pretty quickly to the upside. I think it's taking a back seat to a lot of the meme stuff like the cats and stuff. But what ends up going on with the runes here is you're going to see everything kind of rotate within. You get some new liquidity here and there. Maybe SX comes in and starts buying up marketplace listings and stuff like that. But in reality, you're going to see a rotation. It's just, people making, we'll look at whatever's pumping right now. Okay, the the Donald Trump. Okay, so it's basically a Solana derivative. It's pumping. It's still early in the day, uh, since the dailies have closed, and it's 18,000. We should go and look at volume, and see what else is moving on. Cat in the Sats. It's a meme. It's probably going to do well. What it's going to do well over the longer term, I don't know. It's edging up towards 2,000 holders, or just over and just under 2,100. You got to be careful though, because a lot of these, like the $1 billion cat, is taking quite a bit of dump, and that's because you have concentrated holder supply, um, and when they really start listing, 974 holders is not a try. That's why you see charts that look like this. It starts to get to an attractive level, and then it gets sold into very aggressively until it's fully distributed, relative to the concentrated holder base. So you do have to be careful, even if they're running. Like, who are you going to sell to? Most of the volume has got to be newer players coming in. So you're going to hear alpha callers and like all these people like, hey, come buy these coins. Well, because me and my buddies minted them all. Like, for longer term plays and probably safer plays, I would, I'm not saying don't jump onto a meme coin and ride the wave. What I'm saying, for longer term plays, you probably do want to look towards some of the larger market cap stuff that has not really, is undervalued in comparison to other stuff. So if we were to look at market cap again, you got to be aware of FAU. They've got an outstanding supply of 99% of it. So it's something that I won't even touch at this point. I would also be aware of Epic. Only 50 million is in circulation. Blob is likely going to get that airdrop. So, the 6 cent will probably become 0.006 cents, right? So you're likely to see it, once it's fully distributed there, be more around what some of these other ones are. Lobo the Wolf Pup is pretty well distributed. Actually, Lobo the Wolf Pup is way more distributed. It's got 20,000 more holders. So this is very strong, and still not a bad play. I mean, this thing is trading at, roughly it's trading at where something like decentralized is, about, 0.15 sats higher, 0.11 sats higher. So just be aware that these are still really relatively low market cap. There's going to be some ebbs and flows. Some of them are listed on these smaller centralized exchanges, and then some of them will be coming back. So these two, I think, are, a lot of people aren't talking about decentralized right now, but there's a lot of people that are there's a lot of bigger players in the game that are accumulating. I can tell you that. It looks like Lobo is moving in and taking over, in terms of where I thought decentralized holder base was, but still two very good plays that are still relatively cheap when you compare something like, Risic or RuneCoin, which has 83,000 holders. Again, we're looking at around that 21 billion supply again, right? So when you compare the holder bases, very good for Rune 7 and 8 here for market cap. Epic, you should know there's about 4,000, and there's 950 million. There's a 950 million supply overhang for the Epic Rune. So I don't know how Neuro and his team are going to do this, because they know that people minted this. They know that people are buying this right now at this price. So 6 cents is not going to last. You start releasing that amount of supply, it's going to go down. Blob holders get an airdrop, or rune blobbed, or whatever they want to call it. This is going to aggressively change, and not in your favor. If you're buying at 6 cents, you're probably going to be waiting a very long time, or you're going to have to average down with all that new supply coming onto the market at cheaper prices. So I don't think it's the time to get into Epic. Pups World Peace, I don't know. It's still relatively thin on the holder side. I would like to see where some of that supply goes, but it's Pups. It's probably going to do well. I'm not as involved in looking at this, so if somebody else wants to comment below and let me know, well, do so, please. The only other thing here is, dog go to the moon has been, it's kind of been going to the moon. 71,000 holders. So if we're looking at holder base, I think, RuneCoin still got it. It's dog. And then you've got Lobo and decentralized. I think that's pretty good. There might be some others that have a good or large holder base. But one of the ones that I have been keeping an eye on is decentralized because no one talks about it. It's on. I'm seeing lists everywhere and no one puts it on there. I think it's because they want to accumulate more. I don't know. Maybe that's just maybe they legit don't think it's something that they're excited about just yet, or maybe they're not excited about it yet. I don't know. But I like its structure, especially here on the 4 hour. It's looking like it wants to keep crawling up and testing the highs again above 0.003 cents or so. It's going to test its current highs around that or above. Man, it's so thin up here. It as long as it's staying above the basis, we'll call it 0.0244 cents here on exchanges like Gate.io, which actually has liquidity. I would say that it's going to be up and to the right. Now, momentum kind of flat right now, above 0.0252, looking okay. It's trading at 0.0255, so nothing crazy there. You're not going to get anything on the longer term time frames. Let's go down to the hourly. Hourly looks a little bearish though, so I would give it some room down to the lower second. You just don't want to see it drop in that 0.00222 cents. Dog, on the other hand, blue sky breakout, maintained above some of the other areas that we had spoken about. On the 4 hour, we've got a big area of support down below. Easy stuff for dog. When looking at this, you can just take and mark out this big area, and this is going to be its primary supports to the downside. Now, if you want to see it maintaining its bullish structure, we'll cover that in just a moment. So you don't want to see it dropping at 0.066 cents and to around, it can safely come into that 0.0739274 cent region. Of course, that would be right around this last higher low. And realistically, what you want to see it maintaining to be strong for continuation is right here on the highs. Pretty simple. There's nothing too crazy going on here. And that's above around 0.08 cents. So that's where it's currently testing and back testing too. That's also the 4 hour upper first. This is in an expansive posture. So the pullback to retest that is fine. And then again, if it did drop around 0.08 cents or so, it can deviate. You don't want to see it getting below there into and anywhere below 0.074 cents. That's where it's going to come right back to its lows. Maybe even attempt to break structure to the downside because this is a nice uptrend. But I'd be looking for continuation to a penny, which would, because of its supply being 100 billion, would put it at $1 billion market cap. So then I think they're gonna, or Leonidas, I believe, said that they're gonna then put plans into place and announce when they're gonna take the snapshots so that everybody runs and buys runes again. And I'm sure that I'm sure there's gonna be plenty of people waiting to sell some runes, sell some rune stones at higher prices. I'm sure. So, but yeah. Looks good. Above the green zone, 0.008 cents looks good. Lobo, beautiful moves. The last time that we looked at this, I said basically above 0.014 cents. We're looking for this thing to run back to its highs. There's little to no resistance. This is just a straight up, you're going to see cup and handles. You're going to see all kinds of patterns. No one cares about those. It's too young an asset. We're looking at a 4 hour anyway. It's only got a little bit more to get to get it above its all-time high here, and start looking towards that 0.03 cent region to 0.035. Hourly's probably a little stretched out. Use a cool down. Yeah, 0.025 is going to be the momentum pivot there. But to be fair, it's trading above it. 0.0259, so almost 0.026. Yeah. Looks good. That's the hourly though. That could change very, very quickly. Still, it's gone into a cool down phase while in the context of a beautiful uptrend. Nice bounce off of that basis. This thing could keep ripping. No problem, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it take a break. And again, like dog, you can pick out a pretty clear zone here. In fact, it was this high back here at 00189 or 0019 cents that kind of defined this area of interest. So, to the upside, breakout retest, beautiful. At worst, you don't want to see this dropping down below 0017. And as long as it's above its last higher low structure here at 0019 or so, looking good up and to the right. It can consolidate all at once. I mean, it hasn't even tested the close opens over here at 00233. So, could it come back down? It's looking a little exhausted. Could throw some more bearish divergence. So I wouldn't be surprised to see it come back to earth a little bit. So just watch it above 00189 or 19, looking very, very strong. Worst case scenario, it starts dropping 0017. Then we're looking for it to come back down. That would also be a structure change on the 4-hour, which would be a trend break. So it would be uptrend to a trend break. And then you look for possible downtrend to resume, but it's probably bullish divergences everywhere that would start popping off. So again, I would honestly just keep playing the hourly on these. Nice uptrend to downtrend on divergences, longer term divergences between these 2 points, and then up and away. What else? Rune Coin's probably one to check on. This is a big consolidation. So nothing too crazy with Rune Coin here. It did deviate on a closing basis, and where to head to just tested right around this high at just below 1 cent. But it did hold 1 cent, and I do believe that I mentioned if it holds 1 cent, can get back above that. No, it didn't hold 1 cent. It was 949. My apologies. So it was just right into this high, which was just above one of these important areas that we had mentioned, 0091. Nice little deviation, nice little rejection off that deviation as well. This was in the context of expansion to compression. It did not get the continuation, so looks good. It's been hanging around roughly the same area that we talked about last week. As long as it's above a penny, it's looking good, especially right here. Anywhere below a penny, then it starts looking, you don't want to see it drop this last lower low, 0094 cents. Then we're looking for a markdown, probably to the close open of that high, 0093 into, the upper 008 region. Don't want to see that. 4-hour looks good for upside above 00964. So it looks like it wants to get some continuation to the upside here. Hourly's a little tired, 00112 or 1.1 cents, almost 1.1 or 1.2 cent region. A little bit of an hourly rejection. If it can start trading above that 1.2 cent region, it's going to be a nice breakout. Go test some of the 1.3 to 1.4 cent, maybe even 1.5 cent region up there where it wicked out at. A little bit above there, just shy of it. It was just shy of 1.5 cents. That's roughly where I'd be looking for them. Any kind of a breakout above 1.2, look to 1.3, and then above there, we're looking for the highs to get ran again. Nice little race back to test that 1.5 cent region, and then come back to it. That's pretty much all I got for you. I see a lot of people talking about uncommon goods. A lot of these LIFO had put out a thing, attaching uncommon goods, to a mint to a sniper thing to keep your stuff safe and or snipe stuff and like all this other stuff. And so people are starting to buy uncommon goods or accidentally mint it because they're putting their SAT fees too high instead of letting the transaction drop. And I think he clarified, but look, this is going to mint out through the next halving. There's no reason to jump on board. Is there trades to be had here? Can you still play, can you still do the technical analysis dance with this one? Absolutely. But you have continuous supply. It's not like all of the supply has been distributed already, like a Rune Coin or a Lobo or a decentralized or a dog. It's just continuous pressure for 4 years. So there's no I don't think that you should even bother with it until the bear market. When we get a beautiful bear market, then start minting the hell out of this thing. Um, Other than that, that's all I got for you today. We're going to follow up with this stuff actually on Wednesday. So we're going to change things up a little bit. Monday, Wednesday, Friday is going to be recorded videos. They're going to be longer format. And then Tuesday and Thursday are going to be actual quick take TA. So just following up with what we've talked about on Monday, on Wednesday, and on Friday. And then we're going to be doing some more, or I'm going to be doing, hopefully you'll be there, some more Spaces events. Had some fun over the weekend with a few of them. I thank everyone for hanging out with me and inviting me and stuff like that. So as a guest speaker. And then, some more Discord events as well. So some more stuff. Obviously, we've got some regular stuff going on with. I've got some regular Discord events going on with, TA Q&A over there at Pepe Ornals Maxi. And of course, going to start something with my home team, which is where I am a team member of New Bitcoin Order there. Loki's coming back from some personal stuff, had to take care of some things. Obviously, everybody needs a little break away from some of this stuff sometimes. And but everybody's been just hanging out and doing their thing. And obviously, he's cooking something up. But we're going to do some event stuff over there as well. I'm going to try and nail down some times with you guys in that server. And then hopefully, if some Sigmas can get back to me, let me know if you want to do an event as well. I know that there has been quite a bit of interest expressed there, but I don't know about any times or anything like that. And we haven't had any concrete conversations just yet, but we can always do that. I know some of you were in some of the Spaces events over the weekend. I appreciate you hanging out with me. And I want to thank you for watching this nice long video. We did cover a lot today. I will have a quicker version of this video out tomorrow. It will be around 10 minutes, and I'm only going to cover Bitcoin. We will just follow up with what I talked about today, so make sure you watched at least the Bitcoin section. If you made it this far, obviously those instructions don't matter anymore. So you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe, and of course, as always, stay safe. With all of that being said, Landy out.